A clumsy CGI bear that stumbles around a lot and cleans windows with its butt. How funny. I'm just kidding. Paddington 2 is wonderful.
Come on, Wolfie.
Paddington 2 is so much more than what the trailer suggests. It's not just a slapsticky children's movie with some jokes and a throwaway story. It's no less than one of the best family films ever made in my opinion. And that's coming from someone who never heard about the famous and beloved Paddington Bear until the first movie came out 3 years ago. And I didn't even bother to see that one on its release. Not because it was somewhat under my radar, but instead it was all over it. At that time I was working at a cinema and Paddington was simply everywhere months before the movie was even coming out. Paddington posters, Paddington standees, Paddington banners, popcorn buckets and even gift cards. And since the trailer for the first one emphasized even more on the clumsiness of its title character, I wasn't interested at all. Huge mistake. In preparation for the sequel I rented the first one and was simply blown away by how great it was. I could have never expected what a positive, heartfelt, funny and overall wonderful piece of filmmaking and storytelling that film was. So just one day later I went to see the Paddington 2 press screening, torn between big expectations and mild fear, because normally family movie sequels don't turn out to be that good. But my hesitations were completely unnecessary and it might be one of the hardest questions to answer. Which one is better, the first or the second Paddington? Which is just crazy. Director and co-screenwriter Paul King did it again, and Paddington 2 is equally funny, magical, adventurous and heartfelt as the first one. It might even be a little bit stronger in all those categories. A filmmaking aspect that might not be that special or even notable to the general movie-going audience, but which is one of the most important ones for me when I think about both movies is planting. Paddington and its sequel should be shown and analyzed in every filmmaking class to underline the importance of good planting. The script by Simon Fanaby and Paul King is so tightly written and the direction so marvelous that each and every element will have some importance later on. Almost every joke and story beat happening in the second half of the movie was planted in the first. There are very small plants like the coin Paddington got behind his ear, which will later be used to make an important telephone call, very subtle plants like the laundry chute in a prison, which comes into play later again, and there are bigger plans like a flashback and the term bullseye, or the fact that the mom is training for something, that the son is an expert in steam engines, the father takes yoga classes, and so on and on. Everything, or almost everything that's happening, be it a simple gag or an important action in the story, is planted before, and for someone interested in filmmaking and storytelling it's a big delight to see it unfold this way. And it's not done in a fashion that makes it get too predictable. The whole movie is also a fantastic example of classic narrative storytelling. Our hero, which is of course Paddington the Bear, has happily settled with the Brown family and is now a popular member of the local community. But a compelling story doesn't arise from harmony. There must be a conflict, and in most cases the basic conflict comes from a lack of something. For this particular movie it's a pretty common one at first. Paddington needs a present for his Aunt Lucy's 100th birthday. When he stumbles upon a wonderful pop-up book at Mr. Gruber's antique shop, he only needs to bring up the money to buy it. Not only are we reintroduced to Paddington's kind personality, but we also get a clear motivation and goal that drives the movie forward. You might say that's a pretty simplistic idea for a film, but that's the beauty of it, because each scene builds towards the next one, and of course it doesn't stop at just earning some money to buy a book, and very quickly we get sucked into an intriguing story of a hidden treasure, a greedy actor, a wrongfully accused Paddington, and we find ourselves in an exciting, funny and even action-packed adventure again. An adventure where every beloved character from the first movie has something important to do, and every new companion on the way can shine as well. I can't compliment this film enough. Pretty much everybody from the first one is back again, with the exception of Nicole Kidman, but that's understandable. Sally Hawkins, who is yet in another fantastic film this year, plays the mom Mary Brown. Hugh Bonneville, who is my personal highlight, is back as the father Henry, Julie Walters as grandma Mrs. Bird, and fortunately the two child actors, Madeleine Harris and Samuel Joslin, haven't outgrown their roles yet. Former Doctor Who, Peter Capaldi returns as the peculiar neighbor Mr. Curry, and even the funny security guard from the first one has another laugh-out-loud appearance. In general, the movie shares many funny beats from the first one, but they aren't just badly recycled but turned into wonderful little running gags by now, and since there's so much variation and new material, and all the characters got little additions or changes, it's all working just perfectly. In the first one we got that huge slapstick moment where Paddington completely destroys the bathroom and sets everything underwater just by his sheer clumsiness, and here he's causing havoc while trying to simply cut a man's hair at a barber shop. But again, it's not just a funny throwaway slapstick scene because A, it's done to such a comedic perfection that it's very reminiscent of old cartoons, and B, the man whose hair he's trying to cut isn't just anyone, but plays a role later on which isn't obvious at first at all. Every little detail, like the extendable ladder Paddington is using while he tries to clean his neighbor's windows, is coming back at some point in the movie. But back to the actors. The two new bigcomers are Hugh Grant, who gives one of the funniest and most memorable movie villains, while also making a little bit fun of his real-life persona, and Brendan Gleeson as kind of a Seinfeld soup Nazi, with the difference that his soup, or rather unidentifiable food mash, isn't tasty at all. Both of them are fantastic additions and they fit right into the franchise's tone and charm. And Paddington himself? Of course, he's voiced again by Ben Whishaw, who finds exactly the right voice for the polite and gentle bear with a heart of gold. Director Paul King is also so clever not to try to make everything 10 times bigger than in the first one. Yes, we get a tense and exciting climax with more action than I was expecting, but everything is driven by the characters, and at every time the movie preserves its emotional core, which is Paddington and his part in the Brown family and the little community they live in. And speaking about that community, while of course never addressing it directly, I couldn't help myself thinking about Britain's current situation and the fact that it's leaving the EU, which was founded as a way to work together, preserve peace and dismantle nationalistic and insulating thinking. Paddington shows people of many colors and social classes, and as you might guess they are all working together to save the day, and it's portrayed as something that's genuine to the people of London. It is also something I always associated with the American way as well, and now the USA are in an even more moronic situation than Great Britain. But I don't want to get political and just leave it at me saying that I love the positive vibe and optimistic feeling of community that this movie was transpiring. Now before I end this review, I need to talk about one of the most important things about the film. How does it present its story? Apart from the many structural aspects I already mentioned, Paul King, who was working mainly in television, just became one of the most promising filmmakers for me with just 2 kids movies. But when I say kids movies, I mean movies for the whole family, because this is storytelling that appeals to people from all ages. But what I really wanted to say was that Paddington 2, like its predecessor, is stacked with ideas when it comes to telling something in a visual way. The countless small and big ideas to tell this story start with the simple notion of Paddington behind his attic window, wishing the dust away in a manner that it resembles the number 2, which forms the title Paddington 2. From beginning to end, Paul King is telling his story with many visual treats and thus continuing the style of the first one. When Paddington opens the pop-up book, he and his aunt became figures in this giant world. When he's thinking back about his old home in Peru, later in the movie, a generic approach would have been just to cut to a flashback or make a blurry transition. But here, a tear of our sad hero falls to the floor where it gives growth to a little plant, and a few seconds later his room is filled with jungle flowers and he enters his old home without the movie cutting away. It's things like that that makes the movie so wonderful. At each moment you know you're in good hands with those filmmakers and you know you will get a great time out of their film. And that's exactly what I had. This was one of the best times I spent in theater all year, and I can't recommend the movie highly enough. If you liked the first one, you will like this one as well. And if you didn't, I hope you get back your heart soon. In German I'd say, Paddington 2 ist genauso wundervoll, charmant und großartig erzähltes Kino wie der erste Teil. Und der Begriff muss hier erlaubt sein, einfach bärenstark. I give Paddington 2 9 out of 10. It's more like 8.9, but I don't do that.
This is perfect. Come on, Wolfie. Ow.
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Paddington 2. And also let me know what's your favorite family film. And to make it a little bit more interesting, let's say animated movies don't count. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, simply at @JimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.